Are you getting ready to start your own business? Wouldn't it be great if you could hear from someone who's been right where you are and could tell you all the things they wish they'd known before they started? Today, I take a deep dive with Chaz and we talk about all the things he wishes someone would have told him before he started Master Networks. Get ready to improve your mindset, increase your skill set, and expand your network. Follow along as the CEO of Master Networks brings you over a decade of business networking experience. Welcome to Word of Mouth with Chaz Wilson.
So I think today, before we jump into this topic, we should talk about what you walked out to with your vehicle.
When
was it? Over the weekend?
Talk about it? Yes, over the weekend.
Yeah.
So we got back from getting breakfast on Sunday morning. It was like 10:45. We pull into the parking garage, and we're parked next to a silver Jetta. And my boyfriend Christian, was going to make a joke about the car with the tire missing. And he looks over to me and he says, "Is that your car?" I was like, "No, that's not my car. My car has a wheel on it."
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so the entire wheel, all of it, rim, bolts, hubcap, tire, all of it gone.
Okay, so we have to insert a photo. We'll show a photo of this so you guys can see this. But so here's so it happened overnight.
It had to have, because it was there on Saturday around noon when we got home from the grocery store.
I want to know who steals one wheel.
That's my question exactly.
I mean, it's pretty specific. Probably like that type of car, that wheel.
It's a cheap wheel, though. It's not resellable.
Well, I joked with you. I was like, I've heard of I said, because you got a new tire,
Yes.
right? That's a new wheel.
Yep.
And I said, did you pay for it? Because I've heard of cars being repossessed, but I was like, did they come repossess your tire?
I would have hoped they would leave a note if that was the case.
My gosh, that's so weird.
So
I've never heard of that. Just
so bizarre.
one
No,
tire.
me either. Well, now you have
Or
this
one
first time
wheel.
for everything. One wheel, yeah.
So did it damage the axle and the brake?
Yeah,
and all
the
that?
brake disc is bent, so we're gonna have to figure that out.
Oh, anyway, what a weird way to start your Saturday and a weird way to start the episode. But here we go.
Yes. So this episode, this topic is one of the most frequently requested topics.
Yes.
It's kind of vague, but things you wish you would have known before starting your business, or things you wish somebody would have told you, any sort of advice you could give somebody like me who has never even
Somebody who's
looked
starting,
into it.
getting
Yeah.
ready to get started. It's like if you can, they always say hindsight's 20/20.
Exactly.
Of course, with 20/20 in our rearview mirror, it's definitely hindsight, right? So I think when you look back as an entrepreneur, you said, if I knew this, so if you're getting ready to start your business, these are the things I would consider. I think the first thing that comes to my mind is the amount of work it would take. I think most people way overestimate what they're going to accomplish.
Okay.
So, for example, with Master Networks, I think our first business model, we had, I think the first month we thought we would get somewhere to 50 members, and then by 90 days in, our goal was 100 members.
Mm-hmm.
So how long do you think it took us to get 100 members? Remember, 90 days or so was our first goal to get 100 people.
I'm gonna say it took a lot longer than that.
It did, but what's your guess?
Is it 4 to 6 months?
No, it was way more than that.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, way more than that.
How
So
long?
here's what's interesting, right? 16 months. 16 months to get 100 people.
Okay, so I bet,
Now,
that's
a
definitely
little
something.
embarrassing to say, but the reality was we were building out the product, the service, everything as we went.
Yeah.
But I think most people, they way overestimate what they're going to do. I'm like that because we're optimistic. Like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to conquer the world. So I think that's one of the things I would tell entrepreneurs. Now, at the same token, I think we underestimate how far we can go within a few years because there's this sort of multiplying effect that happens, this ripple effect with the efforts that you put in. So I would say if you're making a business plan right now and you have a target, which you should always set, I'm not one that says, well, you should lower your target. What I would say to you is don't lower your target, but, double, triple, 10 times the effort you think it's going to be to make that target. So for example, 100 people was our goal. Mm-hmm. What we underestimated was not the goal, the amount of work it would take to hit that goal, right? So going in, keep your goal, your target where it is. Just completely go 10 times more than what you think it's going to take to hit that goal. That's probably the first thing.
So is that like an immediate realization after you didn't hit that goal in the 90 days that, oh, well, we probably overestimated this? Or was it something that came way down the line when you were looking back?
No, I think right away. I think we were like, man, first of all, I think you start to question everything you're doing. Like, is this a viable thing? Because it's not going the way we want.
That's what I was wondering, if it was more of a realization that you overestimated, or in the moment, if you were thinking this is just not a viable thing at all.
I think all of it. I think you question everything. I think at that point you start to question all yourself. You question your product, your service, your idea. Everything gets questioned. But the problem is that if we had been focused, and me in particular, if I had been more focused on creating, and particularly, which would be my step 2, is focus on top line revenue income. If I had been more focused on that, I would have less time to be questioning myself.
Okay.
Right? The only reason you're sitting there questioning yourself, the only reason you're critical of all the things going on is because you don't have enough things to do. You're not moving in momentum. Like we were just talking before the episode, I got a lot of things going on. I walked in, I said, I'm kind of in a mood today, so I might bring it on the podcast. But the reality is now we're into something else. I don't have the space in my head and in my emotions to be there because I'm here.
Gotcha.
Make sense? And so when you're questioning everything, the best way to change it is to get into activity right away. And I don't think we did that enough at the beginning, right? You go, well, let's talk about our idea more. Are we on the right path? Let's strategize. No. Get into activity. That'll fix it.
So for somebody starting a business who does have that mentality and is trying to get out of it, how would they find those things to do? Because looking back on it, I'm sure it's easy, like, oh, I could have done this. We could have been doing this better. But somebody who's in the moment focusing on getting out of that headspace, how do they find those things to do?
I think it's no different than what we just did the other day. I'm going to give you an example. We're in the process of putting on an event, and someone had emailed and said to one of our team members and said, hey, I am interested in getting a ticket and coming to the event. And they had sent it over the weekend. I don't know if you remember what I did.
You called them immediately.
I was like, could you get their phone number right now? And I called them on my cell phone in front of everyone, or those who are here, right? Why? I wanted to shorten the gap. We could talk about it. We could, okay, who's going to call the person? It's like, no, go now.
Okay.
Whatever's in front of you, like, go do it now. The best thing, I always say, like, it's exciting to get a win and get an early win. And the more you can stack those wins. So sometimes I will look for the easiest opportunity first, and that's fine because it creates momentum. So get into activity, whatever it is for you. Pick up the phone, make a sale, which really, so let me recap. Hard work, that the amount of work it's going to take. The second was focus on top line revenue. And let me just add a little bit more to that, getting into activity.
Okay.
What I was not taught going into business, and so if I'm starting a business, I would be thinking of this right now. I remember listening to, I believe it was Grant Cardone. One time I was listening to a YouTube video that he did, and he said something that really struck me, and probably because I was in the moment. Like if you think about for your personal finances right now, again, in the world of you got your tire, it's gone. All the things that need to happen, right? Okay. Think about, and maybe I'm digging a little bit here, but bear with me. Think about maybe the discussions that you and Christian had around that. It's no different in my house, right? For a long time, it's, well, what are we going to do? Do I need a new wheel? Do I need a new tire? Do I need new brakes? How do I get the car out of here? How do I fix it? All that stuff, right? And how many of those discussions are based around, well, we can't do this and we can't do that because we don't.
All of them.
Right, but no different. I remember conversations in my life where it's like, well, we can't afford that. Okay, what could we do? Well, we could cut the cable bill. We could not eat out. We could do that. And I remember Grant Cardone saying something like, you're spending 95% of your time talking about your expenses.
Okay.
Do you spend even 5% of your time about how do I increase my income?
Okay.
Make sense?
Yes.
So as a business, what we were doing is every time it got tight, we were constantly going into what could we cut?
Okay.
Think about that as a new business.
Yeah.
If you're spending all of your time thinking, what can I cut versus how could I expand? How could I grow that top line revenue? And the epiphany came to me, what if we shifted it and I spent 95% of my time talking about how to make money and only 5% going back maybe once a month and looking at what we could cut. And I started to do that in my personal life too. Like, how could I make more money and then spend some time, a little bit of time on how do I cut it? Because you're training yourself, you're programming yourself to say, not I can't, but how could I?
Okay. When did you watch that and have that epiphany? How
Gosh, I
far
don't
down
know.
the Master Network's
Well,
road?
it was years. I mean, because it was only probably 4 or 5 years ago, probably. If I'm just guessing. Probably,
Just out of
right?
curiosity.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years ago, I probably saw that. But it was a good change for me. And so now we go in and we say, how do we do that? The other component to that is when you do that, it creates, when you are committed to building your top line revenue, like committed. So for example, personally too, right? When each of you in here say, I'm committed to growing my revenue, creativity follows that. It's hard to be creative as a business owner if you're not committed to the path. So when you get committed to building that top line revenue, guess what? You get really creative on ways to do it. It's pretty remarkable how that happens.
Have you found that it works the other way? Somebody who's very creative and then just doesn't have the drive to accomplish?
And it won't get done, right? So they're the high ideas, low achievement, right? They always have an idea, but nothing ever gets executed. They're also the same person in business that shows up to every event, takes a ton of notes, and does nothing.
So what would your advice be to somebody trying to start a business with that kind of mindset?
And going back to this first step, get into activity,
Okay.
put in the work. And I think we get enamored and we romanticize about being an entrepreneur.
Oh,
and,
absolutely.
right? My first sale, I love it.
Yeah.
Great, get over it.
It goes
Anyone
back to
can sell
the
one.
overestimating what you can achieve.
Right. I mean, I did that to myself the other day. I was on the phone and I was excited. I sold 5 tickets. Great. I had a good day. And Corey messaged me and said, hey man, awesome job, 5 tickets. And I said, yep, thank you. Guess what? Starts 0 tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right. And so you have to be able to have that emotional piece too. So anyway, top line revenue, growing that is something no one really said, like focus 95% of your effort on that. The rest will work itself out.
How do you think that's changed in the post or current COVID atmosphere?
How do I think that's changed?
Yeah, especially with, I don't know, you had said in the very beginning, overestimating what you can achieve and doubling your efforts to reach that instead of lowering the goal. Do you think COVID has played into having to double down on that any?
Yes, I think entirely. You know what I think it's done? Is people have, what got them where they are will not get them where they need to go. I think that COVID has leveled the playing field, and those who will put in the work will succeed. Those who don't, whose business sort of came to them, they're done. They are over.
Interesting.
And what it's done is it's made people think, here's all the obstacles that are in my way right now with COVID, versus what are the opportunities that have opened up? I think about, there was years ago, I was listening to a conference call, Laurel Langmeyer, that's her name. It escaped me for a second. She wrote a book called The Millionaire Maker, I think is what it was called. We can double check, and if so, we can put a link into her book. It was really good. But she did a free conference call with her team. Guys, listen to this. This is what she did. She did a free conference call with her team in their strategy session. So
Live?
Yeah, live.
Okay.
So she let you listen in. This was early on in our Master Networks journey. So I'm going to guess probably somewhere around 7-8 years ago. And so it wasn't video, it was just audio. You could call in and listen, and she had it like on speakerphone. And she sat in front of the team, and one of the things she said, which blew me away, is she said, I want to go create $500,000 in the next, I want to say it was 6 months, right? Okay, just step back from that as a second. She's committed to a target. She knows it's going to take a lot of work, and she said, all right, team, how are we going to go create $500,000 in the next 6 months, 180 days? And I've been doing this wrong. I'm like, okay, if I do this, this is the result I would get. And she did it backwards. She said, here's the target. Now, how do I do the work to get it? And her creativity then came in strong, and she then shared with everyone the ideas. They were going to put this call together. I think it was a $5,000 call or a group, coaching group or something like that. And so they need 1,000 people or whatever. So then she would hold a call every month and update you on how their team was moving towards that goal. And by the end of it, they ended up at like $578,000
Oh,
of
wow.
income. So they went over. Mm-hmm. And I just think that those are the kinds of things that a creative mind will come up with in an opportunity like COVID, in an opportunity that the economy has changed. In the opportunities, you get creative. Otherwise, you just look at the obstacles and let them stop you. So this is really changing for me that I could go create something.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Is there anything, if you had been told this before starting Master Networks,
Yeah.
would you have maybe not started at all? Is there anything like that?
That's such a good question.
And be honest.
Yeah, I mean, no, I will always be honest. I don't know. I think I'm unemployable, so I probably would have done it.
Gotcha.
And especially if someone had said, "Yeah, you probably can't. This is all the work." Like, I have this like inferior, fatal characteristic flaw. Mm-hmm. That's you can't tell me what to do, right?
I'm going to succeed out of spite.
That's right. So if you tell me I can't do it, I'm gonna go prove you wrong. So if someone had said, this is all it's going to take, this is everything, I probably still would do it. And to be honest, it's still worth it. It's always worth it, in my opinion. But I don't know that everyone will do what it takes and make good on what it takes to do it.
So on the flip side of that,
Yeah.
since this is educational, but more on the negative side, what you wish you'd known and could have changed. But was there anything that you wish somebody had told you about the successes or something along those lines?
Yeah. Here's something that I think every entrepreneur listening to this, you're either in a place where you're trying to survive, right? Or you've come to a place of stability, or you've come to a place of success, right? What I don't think anyone talks about as an entrepreneur is you're actually the most vulnerable when you achieve success.
Why?
Because you rest. You take your foot off. So you're the most vulnerable when you've hit a level of success that you go, gosh, you know what? Things are good. And it's happened to me too. It's happened to me a couple times. And you take your foot off the gas. And it's like if I had a graph and it was like, survival, stability, and success, it's sort of as it starts to shade from stability into success. It can happen even before you, quote, achieve success. And all of us have, as entrepreneurs, I think, a target in our mind. Like, I don't know, 1 million, 5 million, 10 million. I heard somebody say recently, any number that ends in 0 is lazy because it's just easy to create that number. So you get lazy, right? Because you say, well, if I can make $1 million, but how do you justify that and say that's enough? Mm-hmm. But that's what you do. You say, oh, I'm good. But you're not good. You're good until you're not. And I know this sounds weird, but you're good until you're not. And so the problem is, I'll give you an example that's timely right now, and when this episode airs, it may not be. Does anyone know, could you look up and see, this would be interesting to see, what's the valuation of Parler? Let's just say for discussion purposes, it's, I don't know, pick a number, $50 million. Who cares? The point will be the same. It's worth $50 million. It's worth a lot, okay? So one day you go from being worth $50 million thinking you're good to the very next day, all of the server platforms decide they don't want your platform out there and they shut it down. Amazon shuts you down.
Yes.
Everybody shuts you down. And you are now no longer able to operate. You were good yesterday, and today you're not. And I think as a business owner, the biggest problem we get into is we get into a level of success and we think we're good. And then we stop.
So how do you rectify that? Set the next target and just keep
always
climbing
set
upwards?
Targets, yes. You set a target and go, what's the next target? What's the next target? And I know somebody listening right now is going to say, but then how do you know? When is it ever?
That was my next question.
Yeah, well, it doesn't.
You never know.
Well, here's the thing. I want you to think about it this way. Everyone every year, what do they do at the beginning of the year? They set New Year's resolutions, right?
Yep, they make a plan for the next year.
Why do it again? Why do it again? Why do it again and again and again?
That's a good point.
Because you'd hope, I hope next year, the version of me meeting this version is different and looks back and says, man, I've improved. I'm better. I hope the man that I meet when I'm 90 is not the same man I am today. So why wouldn't our business targets be the same? Why would we go, yeah, I just want to be a $5 million company every year?
Mm-hmm.
See, because if it's about the dollar and just the target, not what's behind it, then it's the target.
Okay.
But it's what that target does. It's the impact that it makes. I don't think the guys at Parlor care whether it's whatever valuation it is. It's more about the impact their platform offers. So that's one of the biggest. I don't know if that answered your question.
No,
I
it definitely
rambled
did.
and ranting today.
No, that was the entire point of it. But I guess with that mindset, there is no cap on what you can achieve. Like that kind of success is infinite, so there's no reason to put a ceiling on it.
Right, which is also goes back to the point of that top line revenue piece, your income, that sales. There's no cap on that. So why wouldn't you spend 95% of your day focusing on that when expenses, there's a cap. You can only cut them so far. You can only cut it to zero. It's limited. It's finite. You can only go to a certain amount. So why focus just solely on that, which is what we all are programmed and trained to do. It's no different with our targets, right? And I think going into business, we just so underestimate the value of that hard work and what it's going to take to get there. However, there's another piece to this, Elizabeth, and that is don't underestimate. Okay, let me go back. What I said was how much work it's going to take to get there, right? But also, what I didn't realize is how to multiply myself.
Okay.
So you hear me say all the time, you're one relationship away from changing your future.
Yes.
So as a business owner, the one thing that I would focus on with the top line revenue is who could get me there.
Okay.
Because we all go into what do I do? How do I do it? How do I make it happen, right? If you're going back to the scenario I brought you into was how do I increase my income so that the questions of conversations, and I'm just using the tire as an example, right?
Yeah, you're good.
Right. All of the repairs it would take, et cetera. Versus who could help me increase my income so that doesn't become a discussion next time. And most of us don't go, who could help me increase my income? Who? There's all this money out there right now. Right? Just because COVID happened, there's not less money. It's still out there. Same amount of money, right? In fact, there's more. Do you ever think about that? There's more money right now. Why? Because we're printing it. There's more money, right? So if it's out there, where do I get it and who has it? And how do I have them give it to me? That's the piece of it. So
this fits into doubling your efforts to reach your target instead of lowering your target. Figure out who can help you get there and double those efforts.
Right. And if there's only so much time in a day, if I worked, let's just say a 10-hour day, I can only put 10 hours of effort in. You come into the world of Master Networks, how many hours are we effectively getting? 20 hours.
Exactly, double.
Right. And so if I can add more people, the efforts then pick up. So that's actually why it took us 16 months to get to 100 people and why I can get to 100 people in 2 weeks now.
You've got a bigger team.
We got a much bigger team, more people, right? So
you can't build in isolation.
No, you can't. And these are all the lessons that I think I wish I'd known going into it. I would have probably organized things differently.
Okay.
Which leads me to one of the other points, which is hire quickly. Add people to your world fast. Don't think those you listening today, and I know if you're starting your business today, would that be something you'd be thinking about? Who can I hire? How fast can I get them?
No, because I would be thinking that I can't afford to bring someone on because this business is not successful yet.
Right, it's the I can't.
Yes.
Versus how do I go afford somebody right now? That is life-changing in a business. The moment you could hire somebody, again, just do this equation. If it's the top line revenue, I'm going to spend 95% of my day focused on. The moment I can find somebody to take care of everything else, my income should increase. So in essence, that person doesn't cost me anything.
They pay for themselves.
Right. So how fast can you make that happen? And most of it has nothing to do with the person. It has to do with your commitment to that top line. It kind of all goes back to the same
I was about to say we
Same
have
point.
a common theme.
Yep. Your hard work and commitment to your target and that top line revenue really puts everything else in motion.
Shoot, that was way more insightful than I had expected.
Well, some days it comes and other days it doesn't. So, yeah, I mean, so if you were starting your business right now, what would be the thing you'd go put in place? What would you go do right now?
Whatever the product is, trying to sell at least one of it.
Yeah.
I've got to start somewhere.
So your target would be one.
Yeah, for the day.
Okay.
Maybe that's way underestimating instead of overestimating.
But your target's one. And at the end of the day, how would you measure your success?
If I sold that one.
If you sold that one. So if every day you went home and you said, my target is to sell one a day, eventually you would be successful. The difference is how long it's going to take. Meaning, what if I could get it to 2 a day?
Right.
Well, then
and that would, I guess, be the goal over time, is to increase.
Right. Right. Because what happens is the repetition causes the frequency to improve, or because of the frequency, you to improve your skill set. There's really only 2 things that matter, and that is time on that task of selling and improving skill set. And the good news is you can improve both of them. You can spend more time, and as you do, you'll improve your skill set, so you'll get better at it.
I'm sure that's actually kind of reassuring for some people listening to hear.
Well,
you can always get better.
Yeah, it's reassuring, but it's also in your face because you control the outcome.
True.
So if you started your new business today and your target was 1, the reality is most people in business spend more time worrying about the marketing, the social media, all of those things, great. But what they should be worrying about is going out and selling that one.
So then where does the marketing and the social media come in at that point? Is there a threshold for that?
Yeah, I mean, until you can prove you can sell the product, I wouldn't waste any time on it. And I say that waste. I think it's a waste of time. And I know people argue, well, I could go do Facebook Lives and I get people to get attention to me. And fine, do that after you sold the first one. You see what I mean? So I would take, if I started working at 9 o'clock, I would take from 9 o'clock till whenever to sell that first one. And when I sold that first one, let's say by noon, then the rest of the day I could do the social media stuff.
Okay.
But most people reverse it. They spend their time, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to do that thing for marketing. I'm going to create a new banner. I'm going to create this thing. And then at the end of the day, it's 3 o'clock and they haven't sold anything. And then they cross their fingers and hope is not a strategy. It's just not. How much better would you feel if you got the one sale done by noon and then you spent the rest of the day?
Maybe sold another one. Yeah.
Right. So that was kind of a rant. But I feel that people need to hear that today.
No, absolutely.
Right?
Especially with the atmosphere that they would be starting businesses in or have already started a business in and are continuing forward.
That's right. And so, being the confessions, if you will, of an entrepreneur of what I wish I'd known. The other thing too is that in business, go fast. Go fast. I disagree completely with like the steady, wins that. Nope. I could give you 10 examples of steady businesses that are gone because they just couldn't grow at a pace fast enough, at margins high enough to stay in business before some competitor came in and figured it out faster. So go fast. Go fast in business. That's what I say. Go fast.
It's your new tagline.
Go fast. What's the alternative? You go slow, right?
Yeah.
So how exciting is that? By the way, who wants to be part of that business? Hey guys, I know I've been at this Master Networks thing for now 10 years, but we're going to get 100 people in the next 16 months, just like we did at the beginning. Lame.
Yeah.
Lame.
It's hard to rally the troops behind that too.
No one wants to be part of that, right? Hey, I'm going to start this new business. My goal is a year from now to still be selling one a day.
Yeah.
No.
I don't think I could even keep that up.
Do you know what's funny? The first couple months of Master Networks, we used to get a laminated year at a glance calendar, and we'd keep it up on the wall. And at the end of the month, I still have some of them. I would write the number of new members see, how did I do this? I would write the number of new members in a black Sharpie or marker, and then red were deactivated, and then green was like our net. And I mean, some of them were like the whole month, 8 new people, 2 out, net 6. We do that in a day now. Think about it. We did it a whole month.
We definitely can't track it by hand anymore.
Well, no, right? So I think it was last week we put in 15 new members in one day. I have back in the first 2 years we had months where we didn't put in 15 people. That's a good example of the target and putting in the work and duplicating and multiplying my effort. So as a business owner, that's the goal. That's where you want to get, and fast. How fast can I get to adding people? I don't want to drop this mic.
Yeah.
I don't want to drop this mic. This is a good mic.
Leave that on the table. Well, thank you so much for having the candid conversation. It was really eye-opening.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to be considering the things as you start a business. If you're in a business, take a step back and look at the business from the outside. Like as if you were coaching you. So you listening today, if you were your own coach, what would you tell yourself? Could you have the honest conversation to say, it's sort of like we were joking before we started and we were talking about health. And I said, I'm really good until like 4:30.
Yeah.
And at 4:30, I'm like, I'm starving. I need to eat up. And I consume more than I should and then not the right things. But I'm honest about it.
I was about to say, at least you do it.
Right. So in business, could you be honest about what could you tell yourself you need to change? And then who can help you get there? Because that's the word of mouth. Then you ask your friends and you say, who do you know that does this thing that I need help with? And I need them in my life. And they'll send them to you.
Okay. So kind of on brand for what you guys were talking about today. So the question is, you find a remote that can rewind, fast forward, stop, and start time like for your life. What do you do with it?
Is it a cop-out to say I wouldn't do anything?
Total cop-out.
Okay, but honestly, yeah, like there are a handful of things that I would rewind back to, hypothetically, to change things. But then where would that put me now?
Right.
I wouldn't be the same person. I wouldn't have the same experiences. So I realistically would not do that. And then if I fast forwarded through time, I don't know, like.
But here, the interesting thing if you asked all successful people if there's one thing they could change, they would all go back. Because they would take the lessons they've learned and say, I would do it 10 times faster. I would do this. I would like whatever. So, but if I pause, I don't know what that, like, I don't even know.
Right. I was thinking like maybe I would pause, like go somewhere like beautiful and just like pause time and just enjoy it for an indeterminate amount of time.
I mean, yeah, like, I don't know what I would do because
right at the moment I die, I just pause time and we just
pausing. It's like, I don't understand. Like, does that keep going? But anyway, we could talk about that all day. But
does this create a paradox? Like, if you rewind time to like change something, you would
like. Have you seen Back to the Future?
Or it's
have
like
you seen Back to the Future?
That movie Click.
Oh,
Is it
yeah.
Click with Adam Sandler where he has the remote?
Yeah.
The remote.
But what controls my dance skills?
We got the phone.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
I suppose if anything, I would pause. So if I had to pick one, I would probably pause.
I would pause too, but I don't know where.
I would pause, I think, primarily because my kids are getting big fast, and I don't like it.
Just spend a couple extra minutes.
Yeah, I mean, so that's what I'd probably do. Good question, though.
You could always like plan a crime or something. And like use
if I
it
was
as
to plan a crime, you know what I would do? I would steal one wheel off somebody's car in a parking garage. Too soon?
Too soon.
That would be my crime of the week.
Next week on Word of Mouth.
Do you think people are born leaders, or can they be developed into leaders?
I'm not just again in this position.
Yes.
I'm leading.
Putting myself in a position where I could delegate roles so I wouldn't have to do the things I didn't want to do.